Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Akasha and Son's ongoing Tree of Life classes. Let's begin with a gentle meditation, opening the way for Mother Akasha to address us this evening. Deep breath. And closing our eyelids, let's begin a gentle journey of turning our attention inwards. Let's take a moment to consciously set aside, to place in the hands of our presence all that we have been addressing this day. Give all those things up to our higher consciousness. Let us remember a choice the Masters invited us to make long ago. I choose peace. I choose to be at peace with my history, to be at peace with others. I choose to be at peace with my Creator. My choice for peace is all-encompassing in every facet of my being, within me and my world. Deep breath. And let us now turn our attention into our hearts. So grateful that today we know of our spiritual heart that abides within our physical heart. And let us enter into greater acceptance of all the mysteries of our spiritual heart that have been revealed to each of us, as we gently acknowledge that there is a presence, a power, and a wisdom within our very own hearts that often has waited to be an inner voice of guidance, of direction, and even a source of miracles in our lives. We lovingly acknowledge and accept this spiritual center within our hearts. And we understand today that center is growing and has within it a sacred flame, an eternal flame, the great love flame. And that flame anchors our consciousness, that expresses through our minds, our feelings, our lives, our bodies. And we love and bless that eternal flame of life within our hearts that has grown in our spiritual awakening and is ready to respond to all direction we give that mighty flame of life. And we call upon our heart flame to rise and expand. And through its inner lantern, to release its sacred fire, love, and illumination and purity and power. Through the substance of our minds, our feelings, our physical bodies. Knowing it is the presence of that mighty flame of life that has the power to transmute all conditions of duality back into a state of perfection. This journey of transmutation is known to us as the journey of resurrection. that lifts us and raises us up and out of limitation and back into that place where the perfection of our consciousness, of our lives, of our spirit, our soul, can express through the lives we have been given. And so we take this moment. We lovingly acknowledge and accept this great inner spiritual presence within our hearts. And we invoke that presence with all of our love to expand and release its luminosity throughout our life, and to make each of us an outpouring of light to the world. Deep breath. And into our gathering today, and into the homes of all who consciously turn towards the light, we welcome the presence of angels. We love, we bless the angels. We accept their great reality. And we desire that the angels come as close to us as we are to each other. And that the angels release their miracle presence and blessings into our lives. We are so grateful for their service. And we welcome the presence of our guardian angels, healing angels, angels of the sacred fire, the cherubim angels, the seraphim, the angels of the music of the higher spheres. And from the center of the universe, the great central sun's angels, of the immortal flames of cosmic Christ love. Come, beloved angels, and shower us with your blessings. Hold us in your own heart flames, and assist each one to fulfill their higher purpose, their destiny, and the divine plan that the great God presence of each has for each one. We thank you. We love and bless the angels. Deep breath. And moments before Mother Akasha greets us this evening, she invites us to hold a vision for friends, family, and loved ones. Akasha invites you to bring into your mind the names or images of 4 to 5 loved ones, friends, family, and just hold them in your mind for a moment, as together we call forth continuously unfolding, miracle-making moments into their lives. We love to have the opportunity to hold a higher vision for loved ones. And as we hold our loved ones in our minds for a moment, does each of us decree individually and as a student body for all our loved ones continuously unfolding miracle-making moments? Let us do this in the silence. Deep breath. And a glorious, good God evening to each of you. Akasha is with you, precious hearts. God bless you. As more and more the other classes, such as the Freedom class, the Miracle class, the Alchemy class, weekend events and conclaves, take on an even greater importance, seeking to advance each of you in your awareness of great cosmic powers and all that you must do in maintaining a relationship with your divinity, in maintaining and expanding your relationship with your spiritual hierarchy. Because you are a student body amongst many student bodies of spiritual paths in this world. You are a student body who have been willing to understand that life does come with purpose. Life does come with destiny. And life comes for each person, whether they are the living proof of it or just the opposite. Life comes for each person, a divine plan that sends them forth into reincarnation, into re-embodiment upon this planet. Long have the heavens, higher dimensions of your own earth and of other systems of worlds, waited for a portion of humanity to begin what we call the awakening of the ages, and in which that awakening will lead to a permanent golden age, in which by the end of that golden age, and in this case, a 10,000-year period, all life upon this planet will be awakened. All life living their destinies, their higher purpose, and the divine plan. A golden age in which all lack, limitation, disease, duality is forever removed from this earth. And the consciousness of the people freed. And the consciousness of the people back upon a path of living lives of such perfection that seeks natural evolution. This is the path that you have chosen. It is the path of resurrection. And the Tree of Life class becomes more and more important to me as an opportunity and for a son, as an opportunity to commune with you, to discourse with you on 1,000 different subjects. Some of them motivational, some of them which speak of personal or spiritual empowerment, and other discourses that touch or remind or reflect or review some of the higher powers that each of you have been introduced to, and of all powers of this universe. The greatest, the highest, the most magnificent, the most wonderful is the sacred fire. Therefore, I have chosen this evening a very unique review of the sacred fire. In this review, I hope to approach it in a slightly different way that seeks to answer some of the questions as if all of you were new to the spiritual path today. What is the sacred fire? Where does it come from? Where does it exist? How does it grow? What can it do? Do you understand? So this evening, I seek a very big conversation within a snapshot of ideas that I hope to present in a language that is even more stepped down than what we usually use. A language in which no one who has studied the Ascended Master teachings could possibly, perhaps, understand if they have a grade 4 education. Do you understand? So where do we start? What is the sacred fire? We're going to approach many ideas and see if we can sew these ideas together. Yet before I do, certainly all of you can appreciate, and soon greater numbers of the world out there will be forced to appreciate. When you consider all the problems that exist in the world today, when you consider all the evil, all the hatred, all weapons of war, when you consider what medical science is quietly knowing and not wishing to let anyone know, that medical science themselves are determining that they will not be able to control the outbreak of plagues and viruses that have the potential to wipe out half the Earth population in the next 20 years. So when you consider the many dangers that exist upon this planet, and the coming together of leaders and scientists and advocacy groups, religious leaders, peace movements, and all that seeks solution to the world's problems, I do feel that you know, and you must know without fear, that you know the world has reached the edge, where the present world problems, using present state of the consciousness of the people, using present technologies, scientific and otherwise, that are in the world, if the problems that exist in the world, if they continue, and they will, there is a realization that you have, there is no human solution. There is no human power that can stop the outbreak of a colossal leap in world problems. And there is a recognition amongst you wakened ones that there is those within mankind that are responsible for creating these problems. Is that not right? So you know a precipice is being reached very quickly. The importance of maintaining balance in chaos is a number one priority that seeks to come in from the higher consciousness of each of you. The desire to maintain a balance while there is chaos, to influence things on the earth from afar, from other dimensional realities, from other worlds, until the people awaken and discover there's not a human power that can stop two things. That is both an implosion and an explosion of human chaos. You know this. And the world very soon will almost be down on its knees, praying, seeking, hoping that some higher power will come in and stop all that is wrong upon this planet and direct the people back to living constructive lives, and a higher power that can remove the destructiveness that has become a hold of many in human nature. And finally, a higher power that will silence every weapon of war, a higher power that will correct the powers of nature and the forces of the elements, a higher power that will clean the atmosphere, cleanse the oceans, return food to their natural divine nutritional order, a higher power that forces leaders to reinvent democracy based on true ideas of liberty and freedom. And so on and on, the list just grows of all the things that you know, and it's not going to be long before the people are praying that some higher power come in and stop. Do you understand? If we go back to 1913, as your cousins in the higher dimensions, the angels and the ascended masters, observed that the people of earth were on the precipice of a world war. If we go back to 1938, as beings from other systems of worlds observed that the people again were on the precipice in 1938 of another world war. The precipice that humankind stands at is viewed by the spiritual hierarchy at least 250 times worse than 1938, which pointed to all signs of a terrifying world war. And in this case, more insidious. It is one thing to run from weapons of war and bombs being dropped upon you. That is one thing. It is an entirely different matter and much more insidious to have that acting in the very atmosphere that you breathe, that which is toxic to your physical bodies. Foods that have been poisoned and spoiled, and more and more. And so with that, you understand, beloved hearts, and the ascended host are depending upon the many spiritual groups awakening in the world of what you know. You know that what's going to correct all of this is going to be the higher powers that can come in from great realms of light. And you have discovered that the greatest of all higher powers is the sacred fire. Let's go upstairs. before the universe was. Formlessness. Secret codes. The most secret code kept from the people of the earth. The most ancient sacred code is I am. And many civilizations have sought to unravel that code. Before the world was, I am. That is a universal principle voice. The world is not the earth. In this statement, before the world was, I am. Before the universe, before anything physical existed, I am. Who is acknowledging this? Consciousness. Consciousness is acknowledging itself. And consciousness can acknowledge itself even greater after the experience of planned consciousness unfolds. Consciousness can even acknowledge itself greater after the planned experience and unfoldment of consciousness takes place. Long ago, way beyond the Big Bang, what existed before the physical universe existed? Consciousness. Consciousness. Now be patient. Let us not seek to unveil all mysteries this evening and make peace, even as the great ascended ones do. That the more you evolve and the more omniscient you become, there are yet more mysteries. Another one shows up. That is the nature of consciousness when it became aware of itself. What was the first act? Let us go before the physical universe was created. All right? We're going before that. What existed? Consciousness. What was the first act of consciousness? Awareness. Consciousness became aware of itself. Consciousness, by nature, very curious, turned inwards. Consciousness without timelessness, without spaciousness, becoming aware that it existed, turned within. Upon turning within, it found a center to its state of beingness. Consciousness found a center when it turned within and examined and inquired. It found a center. It found a point of light. As consciousness turned inward and discovered this point of light at the center of its beingness, the intensity of consciousness turning inwards, discovering that point of light, placed such a cosmic pressure upon that point of light, that spark, that instantly that spark burst. That point of light burst into a living flame. Consciousness then recognized, as it moved out from that flame and observed it, and observed its omniscient, omnipresent capacity and awareness, and turning back and seeing that point of light that had been burst into a flame, consciousness said, "That is my heart center." That is my heart center. And consciousness realized next, it had discovered its heart center. It had discovered a point of light. It turned and faced, and the energy of consciousness itself turning and facing its own center created a cosmic pressure. The first Big Bang. That point of light burst, and out of that point, that spark, a flame came forth. Consciousness, omniscient, observing this flame at the center of its beingness, realized that it had created this flame to begin a process of creationism, to begin a process of creating form. Form, substance, that it could experience itself more. As consciousness came back into its heart center, this flame that had risen, consciousness realized that in that flame, it could construct a vehicle, a form for it to express and even become more aware of itself. And even as it comprehended its infinite nature, conceived the idea that it could create an individual form that would love its infinite nature even more. Again, consciousness contracted inwards into the flame and conceived of a vehicle, a body, a form that consciousness could express. And the flame began building the perfect individualized form, a body that consciousness could express from. Consciousness then realized that this flame was the first. Consciousness meditated upon this heart center flame, and the flame spoke to consciousness and said, if you in your infinite nature wish to finitize yourself in a universe of form, then you must come in to me. Come into me, the flame, and discover my family. Consciousness dived into its own flame. And there the fire element showed consciousness the earth element, the water element, air element. And consciousness knew that the perfect blending of those elements, which, by the way, were not contaminated like they are in the earth. They were all in a state of exaltation, in a state of absolute perfection. And as consciousness walked through the fire element, it observed meadows of earth and land, and great waterways and oceans. And it soared. The air element showed consciousness its ability to soar and be. And the elements talked to consciousness and the fire element that revealed the other three said, I am the chief. I am number one of all elements. You want more water, more earth, more air? It is I, the fire element, that will create these things. So out of the heart of consciousness, the flame of life, the sacred fire, was born. Let's just breathe into that. Now I have used the word consciousness. Could I change that word? And because you have cleansed yourself of the religious, orthodox, superstitious beliefs in God, and you understand nature of God better today, can I not change the word consciousness and say that when God realized it existed as a state of consciousness, became aware of itself, and turned within, discovered its own heart center, a point of light, focusing upon becoming a sacred flame, the sacred fire. The sacred fire element was born, and the sacred fire element revealed to consciousness the other elements. Because what did I am seek? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Or, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was I am. Now, what did the Word desire? There's another statement, and the Word became flesh. In other words, the Word, the consciousness of I am, unfolded physical matter, substance, form, the elements, everything was present for consciousness to create a universe, systems of worlds. Do you understand? Let's come right back down to the earth plane. You have 10 billion people of earth. 99.9%. Would that be correct if I say to you 10% of 1% are awakening? Would that be 99.9? That is what we have on the earth. 99.9% of the people are very much awakening. We'll be generous and say 9% are very much ready for awakening. And then in the other 90%, you have about 70% whose hearts and lives are being softened, and due to all the pressure of the world, many are looking for answers. So, let's bring this conversation down to you. When you realize that you are not what the world has told you. What has the world told you? What the world has told you is what teachers and parents received from world leaders, from religious leaders. What has been passed down generation after generation after generation, until finally you have a species of beings living on the earth who believe that they are biological beings. That species today, because of the abuse of religions and governments and more, that species of people on the earth, a majority now, more than 53% of the people are skeptical about the God that they are taught in the various world religions. So that portion of humanity is really getting ready to step out. Will they be held in a void? Or when they start inquiring, when they start asking, when they start looking for answers, will there be those who have the answers? Yes. They are you and people like you in spiritual groups that are going through a great awakening on the planet today. Where does the sacred fire first grow? I already answered that. In the heart. Whether it's the heart of consciousness or whether consciousness has anchored itself in a physical body, then if consciousness has. You are a conscious being, Francesca. You are aware that you exist. So where does your consciousness anchor itself? Inside your heart. Now, if the outer self, because Francesca is a member of the human race, like everyone else, she has fallen asleep. She has forgotten who she is. She has been subjected to millions of years of lies and religious superstitions. That has led to a series of lifetimes of challenges and terrible experiences. Francesca doesn't know, but she's a spiritual being. So the spiritual being that she is going to start hurting because the experiences she's experiencing on the earth, they were not part of her destiny. This is the life story of everyone. And that life story has some good moments, some bad moments, and a lot of terrifying moments. And whatever moments are sublime, they're short. So Francesca's hurting and limitation becomes, her consciousness uses that as a means to begin to inquire, because consciousness knows that even if consciousness gets stuck in this glass and doesn't know its way out, consciousness by nature inquires of itself. It investigates. Consciousness is curious. So what happens to all of you is a series of events in your lives that moves you towards awakening that you are something much greater and much more wonderful than what the world teachers and religions and educations will tell you. You discover this. But it's not part of the mass consciousness. So you must study quietly. And you must look for others who are like you. And soon you have words that you can use to describe your place in life. That you're not interested in religion anymore, but you are interested in things of consciousness, metaphysics, spirituality, soul, spirit. There's more to life. Those things you aren't interested. Having someone dangling a smoking pot over your head or giving you a little chip of bread, that doesn't interest you. So a natural evolution of your own spirituality begins to unfold. You read, you study, you inquire of these things, and you know that you're starting to change. And in that change, you're not quite thinking the way everybody out in the street thinks. You're changing. and you're understanding the pinnacles of duality, right and wrong, good and bad. And you start reaching for something more. Desire to be free of all the limitation in your life. Desire starts to build. What do I need to increase my desire? What if I suffer more? Will that increase my desire to be free? Many of you have asked that question, and perhaps too many times. But what did the desire do? What did your desire, what was your desire for life? All your constructive desires, desire for expression, desire for creativity, desire not to be held down, desire to have more in life, desire to be achiever. What did all that desiring, what silently was it doing inside you? That desiring was putting pressure upon the center of your heart. The same as consciousness, when it inquired of itself, turned inwards, discovered its heart center, discovered a point of light, a spark. Your desiring is fanning your own point of light. As above, so below. What is applicable to that which is infinite is applicable to that which is individual. So in all your awakening and all your pain and all your desiring to be free and all the questions you're asking and the fact that you know that you're slightly different than everyone else out there. And for a while you have to mask that difference. Otherwise the world calls you odd, crazy, and so forth. So what's going on during this whole process of desire? Oh, I wish my life wasn't so terrible. And you all have moments, and if you didn't have them in this lifetime, you had them in your most previous embodiment. You had those moments where you cried out, I wish I was dead. I never chose this. Why am I here? And that pressure of contraction. What you did not know at a deep psychological, at a deep impressionable place, at a deep place of consciousness, the inner workings of your mind and feelings was contracting upon that spark, that point of light inside your heart. And then all that contraction, all that activity upon you caused your point of light in your heart to burst into a flame, the sacred fire. And every one of you here have that tiny flame growing within your heart. So where does the sacred heart grow? Where does the sacred fire grow? Inside the heart center. Where does it come from? It comes from the center of consciousness, the center of creation. Let's go up, the center of God. Let's come down, the center of self, capital S self. Yes? Now, so the sacred, remember the fire element, in this case the sacred fire. Why is the word sacred so important in your spiritual evolution? Because you know the people of earth, they have fallen because you're awake now. You have studied, you've discovered your history. You've discovered that when you and the rest of the people arrived on this planet some 15 million years ago, you existed in a state of perfection. Oh, can you imagine that? And now you know that the journey of awakening and becoming is a journey back to that state of perfection. You must not idolize that. It must not be a philosophy. It must not be an ideology that cannot be reached. No. It must be a path that is so real, so tangible, so authentic, so possible, to the point it demands its experiential fulfillment in you because you have a mandate. And that is the recognition that the majority of people on earth are very slow to awaken to what you have discovered. And that's not a fault. That is the density of superstitious beliefs that have created such fear that has locked them down. Out of the former administration at the White House of President Bush came the term in that Iraqi war, shock and awe. This is very interesting because to the spiritual hierarchy up there, they know that the only way the people of earth are going to awaken to their spiritual nature and become free of all the hatred and evil and limitation on this world, it's going to take some shock and awe. But not the shock and awe of weapons of war. No, the shock and awe produced by hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands of individuals who have the ability to manifest the sacred fire on their hand, have the ability to manifest and hurl spheres of sacred fire out of their palms and hurl them, as is being shown in modern day movies and new heroes. This is a known. The spiritual hierarchy upstairs, no. They know, and soon, and you know, and soon the people of earth are going to know they are in a predicament in which only a higher power is going to stop this world from self-destruction. It's a known. And the people of earth, within the next year or two, are going to know it. I assure you that within 2 years, every temple, every synagogue, every church, every mosque will be filled, will be open every day, will be filled with people praying for intervention. But that intervention is not going to come that way. They're already here. The ascended forces, they're here. The angelic forces, they're here. But they're not going to walk out and display themselves. No, they're going to come in and they're going to finish the journey that you're on. They're going to help you finish that journey. They're going to empower you with the greatest powers on the universe. And the greatest is the sacred fire. They're going to empower you to not only grow the sacred fire inside your heart like you are now, they're going to empower you to turn these 3 flames in your chest area, to turn that into such a fiery furnace of infinite power. They're going to help you complete the resurrection of the 7 flames of creation within your brain structure, so that you are using every flesh substance and inner activity from electrons and neurons and protons and electrolytes and the central nerve system, the brain stem, and more of the brain fully awake, fully lit up. And then as your higher consciousness steps in, you, beloved precious hearts, you will use the sacred fire. And out of the sacred fire you will project light. Where did the light come? When consciousness decreed, let there be light, light, light. Where did the light come from? the sacred fire. In the same way that if you light a physical fire, it'll produce a flame, and that flame will produce a light. The same mechanical process. Take a deep breath. All right. So we understand the term sacred and talking about the fire element as a higher power. You must be really clear that the elements that create the universe, the elements that we use to create, to experience life, all the elements of the earth have fallen into a state of duality. They can be good, they can be destructive. You can have fire in a fireplace at home offering you warmth in the pleasant evening. You can have fire that rages and strips mountains of beautiful forests. You know, the four elements can act in duality. But when the elements are in a state of perfection, they are sacred. The sacred fire, the sacred water, the sacred air, the sacred earth. That term sacred means that element is in a state of perfection. All right. So whether it is the Creator, the Heavenly Father or the Heavenly Mother, or the principle of light or the principle of love. So whether it is on that scale of infinite creation, or whether it is an angel, or an ascended being, such as Archangel Michael, Jesus the Christ, Siddhartha the Buddha. These are examples of beings today who are ascended and free. So it doesn't matter whether it's an angel or an ascended being or a great cosmic being or go all the way to the center of the universe, the principles of creation itself, light, love, the mind of the universe, the heart of the universe, the Father principle, the Mother principle. So those are all levels from the highest hierarchy, from the innermost place of our universe to living on planet Earth or one of the dimensions of planet. Every one of you, all of you, including yourself, an angel, an ascended being, a great cosmic being, great cosmic beings, or the Heavenly Mother Father, all create their heart havens of the sacred fire. Yes, that's not a mistake in terminology. I don't mean heart heaven. They all create their heart havens of sacred fire. So once the principle of mind and heart, aware of it, it needed a form. It inquired of the fire element to design a form. Once that form was designed, then the fire element called upon earth, air, and water to give that thought form of a perfect body. The fire element called upon the other three elements to give the thought form composition. Question: do the principles of this universe, mind and heart, light and love, do those principles in their infinite nature, do they have individuality? Yes. And what is that? What is a common term of that individuality? Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother. However, you have to free yourselves and with the understanding that concepts of God the Heavenly Father taught in religion are mostly superstitious. They are based on temptation and sin, and they are evil and wrong. God the Father, you have to adjudicate. you have to give justice back to life. So for a while you strip yourselves of all accusations against God the Father, while you cleanse yourself of that, maybe it's better to refer to God the Father as the mind of the universe and God the Mother as the heart of the universe, or two principles, a principle of light or a principle of love. These are big conversations, but these conversations are meaningless without the understanding of the sacred fire. So what is the exaltation of God the Father and Mother, and what do you do? What do both do? Once that flame is birthed in the heart, you create a haven. You create a heart center. And in that, where that flame can grow and grow and grow. And over time or timelessness, you can create a body that is not only your own individual body of the Heavenly Father, you can decide to create a body that's going to surround your heart flame, that's going to encompass your consciousness as a focus point. Where's the focus point for your universe? The great central sun. Who conceived of the idea that there should be a star that big? A star in which you could put 10, 20 of your large planets, such as Jupiter and Saturn, inside that star. Now, what's in the center of that star? The heart center. What's in the heart center? The flames. But that flame isn't a tiny flame anymore. That flame is miles high and miles wide. There are thousands of flames. And the principles of light and principles of love stand individualized within those flames, and out from their hearts burst forth trillions and trillions and trillions of sparks of life. And in the great heart flames of creation, those sparks of life are given spiritual nutrition and life, and each spark of life becomes a flame. And each flame passes through the conceptual mind of the Father. Each flame passes through the breath of the Mother. And then each flame steps forth, stands. And what you see forming inside is a perfect blueprint of a perfect spiritual, physical body. This is where you began. You began in the sacred fire. Your form, consciousness, in that flame created a form for you to function in this universe. In the maturity of all of that, life was born. Did it take 9 months? No. And out you stepped, a being of consciousness. You had form, but a different kind of form than you have physical in nature, but you had a form. And what did that form look like? That's the form. What we call the I am presence, the higher self. This was the magnificence of you. Is it possible that in your future, 10,000, 100,000, a million years and more, that in your future, which is immortal and eternal, is it possible that your heart flame can give birth and projection of a flame in which you invite consciousness to step into that flame, build a physical structure for it, and step forth? Is it possible that within 100,000 years, the present way of beings of consciousness. Now I could say the present way that people come into this world, they are born to mums and dads, and when they're born they're called babies. Let's step the conversation up. Is it possible that within 20, 30, 40,000 years from now, that way of opening the way for children to come into this world, for beings to come into the world, the way you're doing it now would be seen as not only crude, but also obscene.
Exactly. Yes. I agree.
But that individuals who come together, and it makes no difference what physical body. You see, this is where it all really expands, because it doesn't matter whether you're in a masculine or physical body, because you're not using those areas of the body to reproduce. You're producing, your love is producing this flame that projects out. And then the mother and the father, they hold conception. What is this being that they conceive that is going to come forth? I conceive that a being that will come forth, this being will be like a Buddha. And then your consciousness searches the heavens for a being who desires to be like a Buddha. And they come together. This is just such a short story. But then to understand, if you have the ability, if you're growing the sacred fire within your heart, you might, and you know the power of the sacred fire, and you begin to light yourself up, you can produce the sacred fire exactly as it's shown. You can show the world that you can produce a pillar of violet, pink, and gold flames all around you. And that sacred fire is purifying and enlightening and loving your physical embodiment into a state of perfection. And you can show that. And then you know, because you're becoming so all-knowing, that you can store the sacred fire. What does the sacred fire of my life, what does it require? How can I honor that sacred flame? How would I like to honor the sacred fire of my own heart flame? What would I like to do? Oh, I know what I'd like to do. I'd like to build a temple. I'd like to build a temple like the angel, like every angel and every ascended master has a temple. And I'd like upon that temple to project great crystalline containers. And out of my heart, I will project a flame into one, another flame into another flame into another one. And then I'll say, this flame you shall become violet and all your qualities to life. This flame shall become emerald green and all its qualities to life. This flame shall become gold. You see how you're the directors? You see how you're the qualifiers? But where did it all start? If you fill your temple and you start growing flames in crystal vases, but where do they all start? From your own heart flame. So now you're starting to build temples. You're starting to store your own flames. Then your understudies, is that right word? Individuals who are studying under you? And they're going through their own awakening. You put them to work in the temples. You teach them how to maintain the flames and how to project light from these flames. And it just goes on and on. And then one day in your future, you might decide, you know, this planet's too small for me. I need to create a star around me. I need to create another body around my body. A body of a star. And then my heart flame will blaze. I can create a heart center within the star, and then my star can be a source of light to the universe. Whatever you conceive. Whatever you conceive. Back to earth. Now, what happened? Long ago, the people of earth fell asleep. I like a son's explanation of imagining you have this life force. And this life force comes from this great star at the center of the universe. It connects through the head of this magnificent spiritual being that you are, that lives up in the higher realms, because your physical body is not ready for this, to receive the spiritual nature. And then the life force, you see, there it is, looking at the chart, 12 o'clock. There's the life force going all the way to the great central sun, to the heart of Mother, Father, God. And there's that life force descending down at 6 o'clock, down into your physical body, through the top of your head. So what happened? Why did you fall asleep? Why did you forget who you are? What your higher purpose is? Think of this as a mighty extension cord. Think of this as another mighty extension cord. What did the human race do to itself? You pulled the extension cord out. You cut the power, the source of your power of life. Now, this is where the subject gets interesting. Because you'd cut the power where the current was coming through, you could not maintain immortality in your bodies. Do you understand? However, you're a being of consciousness. Consciousness is pervasive. Consciousness is everywhere. You are a group of individuals in this class this evening. Your consciousness is filling this room and beyond it. I can give you a knife and ask, go ahead, slice consciousness. You can't. You can't cut consciousness in half. It's an insane idea. You know that. So what you could do, you could pull the plug so that whatever life force was coming into the body is only going to last you 60, 70, 80, 90 years. Then you're going to run out of life force. Then you're going to have to get a new body for yourself, reconnect, start it again. So from this point of view, every time you reincarnate, every time you re-embody, it's another chance to get it right. But getting it right has been a very slow process. And the hour is so late that the people of earth don't have a choice now. They have to get it right. But the people of earth, life has proven that if beings come from heaven and they show the people of earth, demonstrate it to the people, then when those beings have to return to their star systems, the people forget and go back to their old ways. And it's happened so many times that the beings from the stars who could show people these higher powers, they won't come anymore. That's not the plan. There's a different plan. The beings from the stars will come and show you how to do it. They will come and empower you to do it. They'll make sure you have the teachings. They'll make sure you have the help so that eventually what they would have in the old golden days come and taught the people, you will teach the people. But guess what? Do you think the people out there in the world are ready to listen to this conversation I've just had with you? Not at all. So if you're going to eventually teach the people out there aren't going to listen to you. So you're going to have to prove it. You're going to have to demonstrate it. And when you do, 60% of the people will then go through the Great Awakening. And there'll be another 40% that will accuse you of trickery. You're a magician. Or the born-again Christians will come after you and say, Lucifer is controlling you. So it's going to be very interesting, these stages. So do you see how this future and all that's wrong in this planet, it's begging a higher power. And the highest power in this universe is the sacred fire. If the word saith, and they who come to the earth, they come from the central sun. This is old scripture. They come from the central sun. And I have given them power over everything. I have given them dominion over the stars and the heavens and the earths and all that groweth within the planets. I have given them dominion. Who was that voice? That was the voice of the mind of the universe. Who was that mind speaking of? That mind was speaking of about every race that is created, a creator race. And you are a creator race. And we must say that because when each of you start going and exploring the universe, you're going to find races that are beautiful, that are constructive, but they're not creative races. They're formed and they have a different purpose to them. But you are formed to be a creator race, which means as the father and mother creates, so too can you. And the great powers that you must do this is by the power of the sacred fire. So that's just a little review. And in all these things, you have to each find your way. In the station life, I really hope that you can feel into what I'm saying right now. And whatever station you are now at this time in your life. It's an expression. Yes, whatever station in life, have I got it right? That you're at. The best thing that you could do is have no negative point of view. That you would realize where I am in my life. The worst thing I want to do is come along and paint it with more duality. Oh, I wish it wasn't this way. I wish it was better. I wish the easiest way to grow and shift and move from the place that you're in now to whatever is the next plateau. That's the magnificence that you will discover of our universe and creation. Life is constant. Life loves to recreate itself, and there's always the next plateau. Always. But to move to the next station in life, which will always be filled with more freedom, more liberty, more fulfillment, you cannot move from that place if you are disgruntled. Now, there's another complication here. I can't say that to the mass of the people. To the mass of the people, sometimes being disgruntled is the force that moves them to do something about their life. Do you understand? But that's not your scenario. For your scenario, the place that each of you are going to move to the next plateau is be 100% with everything that is in your life now. The only way you're going to do that is acknowledge that everything in your life has drawn those things to you. You have drawn yourself to those things. Color them with higher purpose. Talk about it. It's not perfect, but I'm going to trust that where I am right now has higher purpose. That where my station in life, my being, my personality, where I work, what I do, what's going on with my family, what's not going on with my family, everything has higher purpose. And I'm just know to be with that, with 100% purpose, 100% permission. And know that it's about loving that moment that you're in. that's going to give you the force and intervention and help that's going to help you to the next level. I'd like to leave this with you. You have to imagine what the next plateau is for each of you. If life is going to come along and every power in the universe using the sacred fire is going to come along and lift you from your station in life and raise you to a new place, a higher state of consciousness, improvements in every aspect of your life, much more joy, much more happiness, much more life, health, much more money supply. If life's going to do that, and that's a natural evolution in life, you, because you're creator beings, one, two, because you know you're creator beings. See, that's the big difference. You know you're creator beings because you're awakened, you're educated. So what that means, you all have to take moments and know what the next, at least create a thought form platform of your next plateau. Some can call it setting goals, having dreams, hopes, and aspirations, but it's more than that. Some can call it, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? I don't care from that. I don't care for that phrase, because you are entering into a state of consciousness that doesn't have to respect time and space. You don't have to even name it. Where do you see yourself in your next plateau? You don't have to color it with time. In fact, if you don't color it in time, the person out there, that's fine. That's motivational, personal empowerment. Where do you see yourself in life? That's great Anthony Robbins stuff, for the people out world. But for you, where do you see, what does the next plateau of your life look like? You don't have to put a time zone on it. In fact, if you don't, it'll show up even more by embracing the present, knowing it has higher purpose. There are things for you to evolve, engage this present, yet at the same time, breathe a little space. What does the next plateau of my life look like? When you have an opportunity to take a walk and just be with yourself, what does that next plateau look like? As a creator being, this is no time to be allowing someone else in with a paintbrush and with all the oils and paints and say, this is the canvas of the next plateau of your life, and I'm going to paint it for you. No. You decide that. But for you, the next plateau, and I remember talking to you years about this, that every once in a while you could be in a meditation, a contemplation, you're sitting in your room and you see over against the wall, you see a canvas. And you get up and you place that canvas on a easel, and it's a blank white canvas. And this canvas is an invitation. It represents your future. It represents the next plateau out of which you're living life. Start painting it. Start projecting things upon that canvas of seeing things with much greater ease, Every plateau must have such a strong underpinning, such a strong foundation. Let that strong foundation for each of you be ease and grace. Much greater ease, much greater grace, in which all that I require to live a beautiful life, health, life, energy, vitality, solutions, a clear, beautiful mind, a heart-driven feeling side of life, money and supply and giving and being involved, and making sure everything is flowing once again. And if I really bring it down to the basics, that's what it's all about. Getting everything flowing once again. That's why I wish to have that weekend in Edmonton, Living a Beautiful Life, so the students then could examine what things could the students do that will contribute to living a beautiful life. And are you willing to be so honest and authentic with yourself? Do you know yourself well enough? And are you courageous enough to ask yourself the question, okay, I've looked at things that could contribute to me living a beautiful life. Am I willing to be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more personal with myself, and say to myself, what might be my own obstacles to living a beautiful life? You know yourself well. You know your habits. You know your strengths. And I'm not going to say you know your weaknesses. I'll say you know those other qualities that you desire to strengthen. If there could be an obstacle to you living a beautiful life, what might that be? And blessed hearts, if you answer that question, referring to anything outside of you, you fail. Because there is no obstacle outside of yourself. If there is an obstacle, it's inside you. Because you're creator beings. You've come to give. You've come to be a sun's presence. Can you imagine a sun, a star in the universe sucking up everything from all the planets? But no, walk through that. Just whatever mental thing goes on. Can you imagine a sun, a star, sucking the life out of all the planets that are evolving around? That wouldn't work. But that's how the people on earth live. That's how the people on earth live. Give and so materialistic. There's nothing wrong with materialism. As long as there's a heart and a soul and a spirit that appreciates the beauty and richness and abundance of life. Do you understand? So I leave you with those thoughts, with the understanding that you are carrying the greatest power inside your heart. And that's the sacred fire. You have to dream. And if you ask me, what's going to take me there to that next plateau? It's going to be your state of mind about the present plateau you're on. And what's going to be the force that takes you to that plateau is the sacred fire in your heart. But you got to use your mind, and you got to start asking yourself, what does the next plateau in my life look like? Is there more ease? Is there more joy? Is there more health? Is there more relationship? Is there more money? Is there more supply? Is there a greater ease? Is grace acting in my life? Only you can answer that question. And all the force. So you've got to build it. But the force that's going to lift you to that next plateau is the sacred fire inside your heart. So I hope that this little review, that I've ended in a way that you realize you've got this flame, you're a creator being, and very soon, you cannot hold yourself back. You cannot hold yourself back. And if I know a son, 2015, he is going to expect a class of achievers. And that means there's no room to be victim of your own creation. And not to be satisfied to the point where you say, this is my life, I'm on this path of resurrection, I'm living on a pension. Why be satisfied with that? Yeah, that might be a temporary situation. Oh, I'm on a path of resurrection, I'm also on a disability. Oh, that's very nice, you're going to live with that state of consciousness for the next 20 years? Or are you going to start mapping your future? Yeah, this is where I am, But that's not necessarily where I'm going to be a year from now. It's a very temporary situation. Evolution, change. Because otherwise, if you keep this path of spiritual evolution in a state of becoming, and you are psychologically or unconsciously freezing yourself because your attitude is, well, I'm on a disability, I'm on a pension, and then your whole framework of thoughts comes from that idea. You're not going to progress. You won't. All things must be seen as temporary. Everything that got you to this moment. Yeah, I'm grateful I do have that disability. Check. I'm grateful I do have that pension. But I certainly do not plan on living on it. I plan on being in a completely different place. One of the worst things that you can do for yourself is resign yourself to some human fate. God bless you, precious hearts. I thank you. Take 15 minutes and the sun is going to be back with you for a half an hour. I thank you. We love and bless you, Mother Akasha. And we ask that each one be still for a moment as Mother Akasha projects an individualized student body crystal cup, the etheric pattern, the electronic pattern, before each one. And we call upon our great God presence in Mother Akasha to fill our crystal cup energetically with all the energy of God's great health in our life, all the energy of God's great protection in our life, and all the energy of God's great abundance acting in our life. We are so grateful for this divine intervention. And may our great God presence in Mother Akasha keep energetically filling that crystal cup that commands its physical manifestation for each of us. Deep breath. Beloved Son, flash the light of your love in, through, and around us. Beloved Son, flash the light of your love in, through, and around us. Beloved Son, flash the light of your love in, through, and around us. And once again, precious hearts, one of the magnificent conclaves is coming forth. A sun is with you. It is the Ascending Hearts Conclave coming up in, a week and a half? Indeed. The decree for this conclave that I invite each of you to hold within your consciousness, that the blessings of conclave can be directed to each of you even before the weekend begins. I demand and I am the victory of ascension through the fulfillment of resurrection. I demand and I am the victory of ascension through the fulfillment of resurrection. Have you got it? I demand and I am the victory of ascension through the fulfillment of resurrection. Or you could try it, I demand and I am the fulfillment of ascension through the victory of resurrection. What is most important is to understand that in this Ascending Hearts Conclave, Mother Akasha has invited a record number of ascended beings to come and commune with you this conclave. Yes, your messengers will be really working this conclave. And of course, the crowning moment of conclave will be the final hour in which from 5 to 6 o'clock upon Sunday, William Shakespeare will appear. And he will animate messenger number 2 in the most profound way. The students in England back in October had a glimpse of what is coming, and it was wonderful. And William Shakespeare and messenger number 2 both had a standing ovation, and that was from the English. And the only thing I mean by that is that they can be a little possessive of their William Shakespeare, if you understand. And they have, of course, some of the most acclaimed actors that do Shakespeare and the great theaters, live theaters in England. And I tell you, precious hearts, if any of those famous London actors that do Shakespeare had an opportunity to have seen Shakespeare animating Excalibur's garment, they would have been drooling with envy. As line after line, sonnet after sonnet, William Shakespeare shall reveal deep hidden comprehension, or meaning that shall become comprehension, with each of you with the recognition that when you begin to comprehend the words of William, what is then set in motion automatically and naturally is what is hidden in cipher code within those deep meanings. And you can't get to the deep meaning of what Shakespeare is often saying at a level that you can comprehend it without first going through your own great awakening, discovering your own spiritual nature, and more. And once you have done that, and you have a considerable amount of context to your spirituality, to Ascended Master teachings, then when Shakespeare reveals what he's saying, and not all Shakespeare's words are lovely and pristine, sometimes his words can be quite bastardly in expression. You must rise out of any personal sensitivity and realize that some of the more bastardly terms of Shakespeare, that those ones hold even a deeper meaning that weight comprehension, and the moment you comprehend that, because you are awakened. The unraveling of the cipher code that can only come through comprehension, in other words, it can only come through the heart, it can only come through the feeling, will bring revelation to the mind. And so we have a conclave coming again. Tremendous blessings. And what I'd like to impress upon each of you this evening, following Mother Akasha's discourse, is two things that you've got to do. Number one, it is to consistently teach yourself to form the most constructive habit of turning towards what you now know are the higher powers of your own spiritual nature and the higher powers of angels and ascended beings who can step into your life and make such a magnificent difference. That becoming a part of your nature, or what you might say is, it's second nature, and that's that you have that pattern. It's built within you. It's what you do. In everything you do, you seek and you welcome divine intervention. You welcome a higher power acting in your life. And you know that that higher power can produce different types of miracles. It can shift your consciousness. It can awaken you to even greater degrees. But you fundamentally know that the essence of power behind that higher power is the sacred fire. Yes? That's number one. For you to just keep reminding yourself. Number two is to find your own way of making authentic everything that you have studied. I would say to you that if you have studied the great university I am, if you have discovered how fear will limit you, if you have discovered and you have found out that if doubt is occurring inside you, that doubt itself will create more limitation in your life. You've discovered this. This is part of the teaching, yes? Yes. Now, you're not going to like this part, but a rose is a rose is a rose. When I say to you, you have to become more authentic, I'm saying you have to live the teachings. So if you allow fear, if you allow doubt, and if you allow, even with the situation that seems to have been thrust upon you, if you allow struggle, then those things are, those adversities in your emotional body are going to draw limitation to you. Do you know that? Yes. You know that. Yes. And yet, despite the fact that you know it, do those things sometimes act up in you? Right. So when they do act up on you, in you, what do you want to do with it? Have your moment. Try to make it as short a human moment as possible. Shake it off. Remember what's important to you. Remind yourself that you're a creator being. I don't do stress. I don't do anxiety. I don't do judgment. I don't do guilt. I don't do fear. I don't do doubt. I don't do doubt. Ooh, that sounds pretty. You remind yourself, I do harmony. I do peace. I do grace. So you remind yourself, because You know, the clutches of the old. You had 700-800 lifetimes to build a momentum of living fear-based lives. And you've spent a couple lifetimes freeing yourself from the shackles of that. And you got to ask yourself, is it authentic for me to keep studying the Ascended Master teachings, which are full of reminders? Choose peace. Choose peace. Is it authentic for me to continue those studies and not act that out and not live it out? Is that authentic?
No.
No. So this is where you have to get after yourself. Life loves perpetual motion. Life gets stuck, obvious, where there is stagnation. Stagnation is your enemy. Loving to become, loving to recreate yourself. Loving to, this is where I am, I'm going to love every moment. If I'm going to take the next step, I got to love where I am. If you are in a situation that our beloved Francesca finds herself. Beloved Francesca, it's been now 12 months, 14 months. Everybody see Francesca? It's been 12, 14 months since her daughter was in a terrible, difficult boat accident. And that boat accident has caused Angela, who was in the accident, has caused her parents to give Angela 24-hour care. Angela's making great improvements. Yet there's a journey that is there. A journey of healing and recovery that is there. Deep breath. Ayasan asks you, Francesca, is Angela going to be fine?
Yes.
Is she going to be okay?
Yes.
Is everything going to turn out fine?
Yes.
Indeed. Are you giving, now that Claudio has returned to working, to provide the income the family requires, and for the extra medical intervention that Angela requires? This places a greater responsibility on you to be there every moment with your daughter, keep an eye on her, and keep assisting her with her recovery. So in this process, do you think it's very, very important that you also be looking after yourself? This is the station that you find yourself in life.
Yes.
Is it possible that there may be a soul contract here between Angela and her mother and father?
Yes.
It's possible.
Yes.
It's possible. Absolutely. And in this station of life that you find yourself, are you going to require the most positive of positive attitudes?
Yes.
Are you going to require that you look within, and not too deeply, are you going to require, is it necessary that during this time that you know, when Angela's, maybe Claudio's got her for a few minutes, and you've got 5 to 7 minutes, would it be a good idea for you to grab those 5-6 minutes here, grab them 5-6 minutes there, considering the amount of responsibility that's on your shoulder to keep an eye on her so often? And if your husband is around and he can help out, would it be wise for you just to sit and refresh yourself and be with you and ask yourself, how am I doing? Would that be a good thing to do? Would it be wise for you to remind yourself that if I'm really going to show up for Angela, and that, I don't know, this Angela's recovery may be clearly there are physical things that have to be dealt with here. There's surgery that has to occur again. So there's definitely a journey here of rehabilitation that will require a number of that will require a certain amount of time.
Yes.
Yet also, what could change, and it could change tomorrow, but you don't know, is that Angela's memory could come back. Angela could recognize her friends, and when she sees friends come over and visit her and begin to remember times that she had with her friends. You don't know, that could happen. But you're holding that higher picture, higher vision, right?
Yes.
So, ask me what I feel in you. This is for everybody, by the way. You all find ways of applying it in your own life. Ask me what I feel in you.
What do you feel in me?
Address me appropriately. A son is my
I
name.
was going to say it in the end, beloved as son, but I'll start all over again. Beloved as son.
Beloved's nice.
Beloved master teacher as son.
The question,
What do you see
what do I feel
What do you
in you?
in me?
I feel a lot of hope for your daughter. I feel that what you're carrying in you for her is over the top. I feel no mother should have to carry that. And I know that you are, can we have some hands? I know that you are carrying such a torch of hope that Angela will come back, that she'll be healed. Not just her body, because you know that her mind and her use of her brain has to be healed too. That hope is so strong in you. So strong. And it's fed, it's fueled by a great desire. She's your daughter. And you want to see her fulfill her destiny. You don't have all the answers as to why this happened. But you know that it did happen. And your focus is to do everything as her mother to help her to come back to life. That's a wonderful thing. I also feel a tremendous heaviness in you. A struggleness. A struggle that is defined less by psychological value, a struggle that is defined more, you're tired. You're tired, my dear. Your body's tired. And you need some help, and you need some support. And all of you at times, all of you need that extra support once in a while. There's so much pressure. You're trying to do everything right and be fine students of life. Avoid the human pitfalls that you've all discovered and climbed out of. Yet who couldn't benefit? And who couldn't benefit more than Francesca? But who of you could also not benefit from having the kind of support that only asks from you one thing a day? That you are willing to go and lay your body down. That you are willing to surrender. That far beyond believing, you accept every higher power of your own spiritual nature, of your own presence. You accept every higher power of angels and ascended beings. You accept the higher power of miracles and light rays and love rays and the various activities of the sacred fire. You accept. What I'd love to see Francesca doing, but I know she's not going to do it, beloved hearts. She's not going to do it without your support. And your support is to do it for her and with her. If I was with Francesca every day in a physical way, I would say, Francesca, I want you to go and lay down in bed. Make yourself nice and comfortable. Get a blankie on you. I want you to remember the promise that Jesus Christ made long ago. And he's going to bring this forth at the conclave again. And he explained in the I Am activity, he explained why he said to his disciples, do this in remembrance of me. But the instruction this time was different. And he's going to speak about it. But if I was with you every day, I'd say, Francesca, where's that beautiful picture of Jesus? The Master Jesus in his golden robe. You have it, right?
Yes.
I'd say, okay, let's get that picture out. You're laying down. We've got you comfortable. We got a blankie over you. And I'm going to say, Francesca, do you have a dollar coin? Or do you have a copper coin or even a gold coin? Do you have a coin? Leanne, do you have one there, a coin? And you would say to me, yes, I do. Yes, and you're laying down and you're on your back. So I would take that coin because what I want you to do, I'm going to say to you, Francesca, I want you to imagine a tremendous focus of light at the center of your forehead. I want you to make that focus of light so blazing. And I want that focus of light, and if you're laying down and I lay this coin over the center of your forehead, you feel the cool sensation, you feel the light pressure of that coin, yes?
Yes.
So that's going to tell you, in that whole surface area where the coin is touching your face, I want you to do your best to visualize that whole area blazing light. Okay?
Okay.
Then in that blazing light, and you might have the picture of the Master Jesus there. I want you lying there and you want you to look up and hold the picture. There he is. There's the Master Jesus. And in that blazing light, I want you to visualize the Master Jesus standing there. Just blazing. And he's facing inwards. In other words, he's facing inside your mind. Yes? And say to yourself, the Master Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. I am visualizing the sphere of light that he taught long ago to do. He taught this in the I Am activity, to visualize a sphere of light at the center of the forehead. Then once you got that blazing light, see him standing there in his golden robes, just blazing light in. And so then you say to yourself, Master Jesus, I'm doing this in remembrance of you. And as I visualize you standing in this focus of blazing light at the center of my forehead, I am forming a bridge between me and you. You are the cosmic Christ. And in forming this bridge and holding that visualization of you standing in this blazing golden of light, this will give you the opportunity to release your ascended master consciousness and every cosmic activity of the I Am presence into my being, where my body can receive new life force, where my mind can expand, And I can receive your cosmic Christ love and nurturing and support and energy and vitality that I need at this time. Master Jesus, be with me. That I may show up for my own life God has given me, that I may show up for my daughter's life, for my husband, for our family. Master Jesus, these next 10 minutes, I give myself to you, that you may do for me what I cannot yet do for myself. That's what I'd ask Francesca to do every single day for 10 minutes. And if you all did this for 10 minutes every day, and in those 10 minutes, you offered 10%, you tithed Francesca, you offered her 1 minute of that 10 minutes. And you see Francesca laying down, and you see her forehead just blazing light out and in, and a miniature of the Master Jesus standing there. If you'll do that for yourselves, and if you will give 1 minute of your 10 minutes for Francesca, we can make some big inroads here for this family. Are you willing? Now, I know what your next question might be, and that might be, could we do that for Angela? No, not yet. Right now, we have to look after the mother. We have to look after the mother so that the mother can look after her daughter. Once we get Francesca's strength and energy and vitality and certainty alive within her, that hope, that dream that she has that her daughter will be healed, it is so big that if we can get the struggle and the tiredness, it's been 14 months, her body is so tired of cradling her daughter. It's not a 3-year-old. How old is Angela in the body? 28? 31. And you could be a testimony. And the student body can support you in a way it's going to come back and rebound on every one of them. Such a blessing. Then, my dear, if this goes well, if everyone cooperates, I will come through the messenger to your place. Do not ask when. When that happens, before I do, I will have the messenger contact 5 students at least to come with me. We will lay Angela out. We will bring gold, the real thing. And we will place that on Angela's head. Your earth element of your body, your water element of your body, has no fire in it. It's so tired. So tired. This way we will get the fire back in you. Are we in agreement? Yes. 2015 calls this student body into action for the production of miracles. We made an announcement in Edmonton a few weeks ago that in the larger weekend events, we're going to, no further delays, at the weekend events, there will be hands-on healing. And it will be fabulous. But there's a lot of other ways that we can do this. And no mother would wish to go through what Francesca has gone through. And yet, apparently, in that Okanagan Lake, there's boat accidents every year that are as tragic. We had another student, a grandfather of the student body, and a son in a similar accident, and he made his transition, a young boy, teenager. The damage to the brain was so severe. So I don't know why they don't do something about that up there. But anyway, if we have cooperation, you know what you need to do. Now, I know there are days you won't do it, but everyone else is going to do it, and you're going to be aware that what they are doing for themselves and what the students are doing for you, Francesca. And it's not a guilt trip, but it's going to be a little bit of pressure to make sure that you show up for yourself and do this. It doesn't matter if you all do it at a different time. Consciousness is no respecter of time. Whenever all of you do it, you'll all be offering a 10% tithe of your time, 1 minute of 10. Do you understand what's being asked for? Yes. If I could get you started tomorrow on this, I'd be so thrilled. Because the Master's going to even reveal more when he comes to conclave. Jesus the Christ. It is time. You all are carrying some context, some understanding of the Ascended Master teachings. And the more those teachings grow within your consciousness, you have the context of everything that's being introduced. And so the next step is simply to do it, and what happens after that is simply the results. That's the area that we are moving in. That's 2015. You are carrying the teachings within you. They're doing their work. Then we start doing very simple things, such as this 10 minutes once a day. And they have to be followed by results. And when you see the results, and the joy that is just going to surge in all of you, and as you, Francesca's a beautiful woman. She's a good-looking dame. But you also know she's very tired. So we are going to have a demonstration here. Okay? Do not dare ask me how long. Do it every day.
Okay.
Same as everyone else. I encourage you. Do your best. Do your best. Okay? God bless you.
God bless you, Father. Thank you.
May the torch of the sacred fire that abides within your heart make each of you such a blazing presence of life. Namaste. We love and bless you, Master Teacher. We are so grateful, Son, for your love and your presence with us. We ask everyone to be perfectly still now. He promised he would always come. And we invite the great Master Jesus to project his luminous presence out in the center here. Standing in his golden robes, he projects his luminous presence, blazing in, through, and around each of us, the radiance of his light. He comes to lift us and raise us into the higher consciousness of light, of love. Be very still for 1 minute, open and receptive, as we welcome the presence of the Great Master for 1 full minute.